record and go live?
Ready.
Okay. It looks like we are live and ready when you are, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Go and call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Soldovia City Council, Monday, April 25th, 2022. The time is 6 p.m. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. Peyton?
Here.
Nathan?
Here.
Sweat?
Here.
Rojas?
Here.
Kennedy? Here. And Swick.
Here.
Okay, we have everyone in attendance tonight, and if you'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have no excused absences tonight. Agenda approval. We'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Vivian.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve tonight's agenda, second by Sweat. Any additional discussion on the agenda before we vote? Okay. All those in favor, Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy, Swick.
Aye.
Motion is approved for tonight's agenda. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion and one vote. Council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight, we only have one item on the consent agenda. That is the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of April 11th, 2022. At this time, just as a matter of formality, what I'd like to do is ask that, I don't know if you guys have got a chance to read all these or not, but that was our meeting when we had the auditor gave his report and the Q&A session on there. What I'd like to do is have, after reading over those minutes, I would like to see those minutes expanded upon for that Q&A session to have a little bit more of that in the record. So what I'd like to do is ask that you guys vote the consent agenda down so that we have an opportunity to go back, and then the minutes would be updated to reflect all of that discussion during the question and answer session with Steve Wadley, and then it would be at the next meeting, and then we could have a full discussion about that if there was no objection to that. So then I can open it up to questions or comments.
Where would you get the information that you're using to expand?
From the recording.
Ah.
From the recording. Yeah, nothing, it would be strictly off of the recording. I just wanted to see a little bit more of that in the written record. I mean, anyone can go to YouTube and get a full and clear, if they go and listen to the 2-hour meeting. But I just wanted to have that session particularly a little more more expanded upon in the written document. So
Yeah,
that's
sounds
why
good.
I was asking, is just the quickest way to do that is to simply vote the agenda down, the consent agenda down, and then we bring it back at the next meeting. If everyone was okay with that.
I didn't read the minutes today in that, but I think I know what you're referring to, and I think it should be in there as well. So,
Yep. All right. Yeah, so if there was any additional comments, or we could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. And then I'd be looking for a no
Yeah,
vote.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda by Rojas, second by Sweat. All those in favor, Peyton,
Aye.
looking for a no vote tonight. Looking for a no vote. Harmony, do you want to change your vote or are you sticking with the?
Sure. No, I'll switch that to a no.
Okay, thank you.
Agree with what your proposal.
Okay, Nathan,
No,
Sweat,
No.
Rojas,
No,
Kennedy,
So
Swick.
No.
Okay, thank you. Motion fails. Consent agenda is not approved. And we'll bring that back at the next meeting. Item F, mayoral proclamations. F1 Proclamation 22-03. This will be honoring the life and legacy of the late Congressman Don Young of Alaska, and this will be found on page 10 of your packet. I'll go ahead and read this in the record. Proclamation honoring the life and legacy of the late Congressman Don Young of Alaska. Whereas Donald Edwin Young, born June 9th, 1933 in Meridian, California, came to Alaska in 1959. And whereas Congressman Don Young's lifelong service to the public in the great state of Alaska began in 1964, first as elected mayor of his hometown, Fort Yukon, followed by an election to State House, where he served 2 terms until 1970 and culminated with a 1973 election to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he then served 25 consecutive terms until his unexpected passing on March 18, 2022. And whereas hours after being sworn in, Congressman Young led a historic battle for the approval of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline System, otherwise known as TAPS, which would become Alaska's economic lifeline. And whereas Congressman Young served as the chairman of the Committee on Natural Resources of the House of Representatives from 1995 to 2001, the chairman of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure of the House of Representatives from 2001 to 2007, and the chairman of the Subcommittee on Indian, Insular, and Alaska Native Affairs in the 112th Congress, which he maintained until January 2017, and was later designated Chairman Emeritus of the Committee of Natural Resources after serving as chairman of the IIANA Subcommittee. And whereas the state of Alaska benefited greatly through Congressman Young's powerful leadership positions, which helped fund highways, bridges, pipelines, and many other projects. And whereas Congressman Young sponsored at least 85 bills that were enacted into federal law, sponsored and co-sponsored many more measures that were part of broader legislation, and successfully passed 204 bills through the House of Representatives. And whereas Congressman Young was recognized as the longest serving member of the House of Representatives of the Republican Party, was known as the Dean of the House, and as the sole representative for the largest state in the United States, was known as Congressman for all Alaska. And whereas Congressman Young fiercely defended Alaska and Alaskans, formed strong relationships and friendships with members on both sides of the aisle, proudly worked with 10 different presidents, and devoted himself to supporting and fulfilling his immense promise to represent his home state of Alaska. Now therefore be resolved that the mayor of the city of Seldovia, on behalf of the Seldovia City Council, honors the life and legacy of the late Congressman Don Young, the Congressman for all Alaska. I don't know if anyone has any additional questions or comments on that, but we felt that it would be fitting to honor the late Don Young for everything he did for the state of Alaska. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item G, public presentation prior notice. Each presenter has up to 10 minutes. Did we have anybody, Heidi, that was going to speak tonight?
Not for prior presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item H, public presentations for items not on the agenda. Wondering if we have anyone that would like to speak on tonight?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item I, Committee and Advisory Board reports. Each member has 5 minutes. The first one listed tonight was I-1 Walt Sonnen CIRCAC Board of Directors report, and this is found on page 11. You know if Walt was going to join us online or no?
I do not believe so, Mr. Mayor. I think it was just a written report provided for the council.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed in going through the report, 2022 does mark the 10-year mark for Hill Corp for their operations in Cook Inlet. I saw that. That was an item of note. Looks like they're still working on that middle ground. The middle ground shoals. There was a leak that that replacement line is planned to be done here after 2022. So that's still ongoing. And there was a number of other folks that gave updated agency reports throughout the report. So lots of good information in there as well. Any questions or comments on the CIRCAC Board of Directors report for this evening?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment again, a very efficient and thorough report by Walt Sonnen. Good information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just real quick, I want to remind everyone too, that tonight we still do have a scheduled HEA power outage. It sounds like it will affect this building. So it's supposed to be the southern half of Soldovia. So that's going to happen at 8 o'clock. So we will just try to, I think the agenda is small enough. We should be able to get through it, no problem, but just keep that in mind if we get into a rabbit hole anywhere here. Okay, so any other questions, comments on the CIRCAC report? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item J, administrative reports. The first one's going to be the finance report, and that'll be found on page 13.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is Jan. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you loud and clear, Jan.
Okay, so in light of the time constraints that you do have this evening, I'm not going to go ahead and go through the report point by point, because I'd basically be reading it back to you. I will point out that at the end of April, we'll be 83% through the year. And so just to kind of give you a benchmark as you compare where we are, you know, in our revenues and expenditures as you go through the different funds. So we're fairly well on target. There are a few funds and classes where we're a bit ahead of that, somewhere we're behind. The general fund, we are amazingly right at 83%. I will point out, as you look at this for revenues versus expenses, that as this is done in the middle of April, we've received a lot of April bills that, you know, we have incurred, things like our IT bills, etc., but we have not yet billed out for April. And so anytime that a report is done, you know, much past the middle of the month, as this one was done, it always appears a little bit negative in terms of, you know, revenues for the month are not recorded, but expenses for the month are. And so it's things are a little bit more imbalanced than they may appear looking at the report, I guess is how I would phrase that. But generally expenses are running probably on average a little bit ahead of budget, but the good news is that revenues are running definitely ahead of budget. The one place you may not see this reflected is in some of the special revenue funds. But again, please do keep in mind that the reports you're seeing include a lot of the billing for April, or the bills that we have received for April, but we have not billed out yet for April. And so if we reran this report at the beginning of May, then the numbers would look considerably different. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Hey,
Mr. Mayor,
thank you, Jan.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, just clarification on the ANLIP under the MMRF, those numbers are wrong, right? That the number that was put up there. It has 232235, comma,
Oh,
742.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
that is definitely, I wish that were right.
Yeah, yeah.
That
The
would be
other,
wonderful. No,
Yeah.
it's, and off the top of my head, let me refer back to the Excel sheet. I think it's in there as well. $235,742.87.
okay, great. And then the clarification for me, when we're talking about remote seller sales tax,
Mhm.
that's being deposited in the MMRF account,
Mhm.
that is that just that 2% that we're talking about? I don't quite get how we're separating remote sellers tax from our sales tax revenue, because not all the remote sales tax is going in there, is it?
So remote seller sales tax, so these are the sales taxes that are collected, when you purchase something on Amazon or Target or, any of those things. And those are collected kind of for us separately from all of our other taxes. And when that was originally set up I'm not sure because it predates me a little bit, but I believe it was set up in maybe early 2020. It was set to go into kind of AMLIP, and AMLIP was one general fund. And so when we divided AMLIP into separate accounts, KeyBank, I think, just kind of designated the MMRF section to receive those funds. But I believe that under the current budget, the remote seller sales tax was accounted for or was planned to offset some of the general funds. So although it's in AMLIP at the time, we anticipate moving it out. And I know I'm not addressing your question directly. If you wouldn't mind rephrasing a little bit, I'll see if I can do a little better.
No, I think you've done it. I think you've done it.
Okay.
I don't want, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. We can clarify if I have any more questions later. I won't hold up tonight's meeting. Thank you, Jan.
Mhm.
Thank you, Vivian. Jennifer.
Yeah, kind of right on top of that too. So, I mean, it's great that we're above our forecast there. At what point are we looking at replacing that 30,000 from the kiosk? Did I hear that was supposed to come out of any kind of surplus that we'd have in this area, or is that for another time?
Right, I cannot address that directly. It is absolutely true that the general fund does owe the permanent fund. The 540,000 ideally would be 570,000. That is owed to the permanent fund. I cannot speak directly to how or any particular time that was set up for that to be repaid. Certainly the goal was for the kiosks to start earning money and for that money to then be paid back into the permanent fund. But yeah, I can't address that in any more detail than that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and a follow on to that. So where did we put that item to rest on the way we were, or is that still, do we have more work to do on that, the way that we were going to do the billing and all of that on the kiosks?
Mayor, we haven't come up with the method yet for repaying.
Okay.
So it could be that there's a surplus and council allocates the surplus to the kiosks, or it's delayed given the general fund deficit. And so, it's just something that's continued to be passed on until the city's in a financial situation where it can pay back the permanent fund for the harbor kiosks. But council didn't make a motion saying how they wanted to go forward with the kiosks.
With the actual payback, but we did change the methodology on the leasing and stuff down there. I mean, I remember we discussed that. Did we finalize that, or was there still more work to do on that?
So that's going to come before the council on your fee schedule.
Okay,
so in the
that'll be
fee
part of our final fee
Correct.
schedule discussion. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else with questions or comments on the finance report tonight? Okay. Thank you, Jan. Okay, we'll move on to item J2, Chief of Police Report, and this will be found on page 16.
So without going over all the notes that or you guys can read on, I'll hit some of the basic points. The computer program that we've got from the state, I was able to go over and get some training, but as I'm finding out, this is a work in progress. It's going to take a long time to figure out and a lot of time to go over. And this is a good thing because what we found without having this program, we weren't sending in statistical information that was needed throughout the state and actually federal. And this is actually quite common with smaller cities that have police, which we didn't know, but come to find out that Seldovia has never done that. So this actually is a good thing for us because now we're able to be qualified for grants and loan or for grants and for money and for things that we can get through the state a little bit easier by doing this. So the programs are there. It will definitely work a lot better too when I get cell service. So when the tower's up, that will help us with being more mobile. Let's see. Like I said, I was able to go over and get some training, and we found out that the new program they're training me on, the troopers are being trained on. So they didn't know a lot to teach me at the time. So like I said, we're learning as we're going. So with that going on, you can read most of the stuff that's been happening. We are also getting closer to having new policies and procedures for this police department. We're working on it. We're getting closer and closer each day. So hopefully that'll be done soon, but it's a big step. So that's where we're at now. Any questions?
I have a quick question. Plain, when you go for training, is that you like sit with a police officer or another trooper or a dedicated trainer? What kind of resources do they have for that? They have to schedule and bring someone down from Anchorage, and how's that work?
In this case, I met with the sergeant that runs the Anchor Point station, and he went over all the stuff. And like I said, they went to a new program right when I got this one, and he was learning it too. So they're learning as they're going. And so he was able to teach me quite a bit, but I mean, this program's really in depth. There is so much, and it takes quite a while to enter information and write down stuff. So it's a big thing, but like I said, it's going to help us a lot in the future getting access to more money.
Is it the type of reporting that you do like as you go throughout the day, or you got to go and spend an hour or two in the office and catch up, or a combination of both, or how does that work?
It's a lot of both. I've learned that right now. And I think it'll get more efficient as the time goes.
Sure.
I'm just right now, it's just learning it. And it's it's like foreign language in a way. But I'm getting there.
Does the state have any resources where like you can call like IT or something, or someone, we're not bugging the sergeant if he's out on duty or whatever? Or...
Yeah.
Okay.
They do have something, and I email them back and forth, and they'll send me training links every so often or updates in case, but I can contact them too. And that's where I'm getting a lot of answers. The thing is when I call them up, I have to have specifics or they don't really understand it's like teaching the whole thing. So,
right.
But they've been really good to help me. And so far it's working good. It's just going to take time.
Okay. Yeah. The more you use a new piece of software, obviously the better you get. There's nothing worse when a new version comes out and no one knows how to use it. So it's like you're starting from scratch. So, all right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the chief on his report? I had one follow-up if there's no one else. So I noted, like reading on the reports from out the road versus in the road and stuff, it seems like now we're quite a few, we're a year. We had, we had this evolutionary change, and we talked about, our responsibilities as Seldovia police, managing in town, only responding to true emergencies, or, where we've got approval from the troopers to go out. How is that at this point in time? Does that seem better, the same, worse?
That's going to be still a work in progress, because I still have people that are so used to, they just walk in, hand me stuff and say, well, I want you to handle it. And I'm like, well, we need to go through the troopers, and I can help them if they would let me, but no, I want you to handle it. Cause it's just, they're used to that. So that's just something that's just taking a while, but I think it's going fine. It seemed to get there. I think a lot of people still don't understand it. So, and I think we've done our best to explain it. And like I say, when they come in and talk to me, I sit them down and I explain that, this is why we do this. And, so it's not that we don't want to help you. It's more of we're following the rules and
Right.
um,
So ongoing education. then,
Ongoing
basically-
education.
Basically. Okay. Okay.
And
All
Mayor,
right. Nope,
and
fair
Mayor, to
enough.
add to that,
Yeah, you bet.
Crystal Collier had a great suggestion of putting out like an info brief that would explain the difference of services like in city limits versus out of city limits, that we would have both DPS, the city, and SBT review and submit out to the community. So that way it's assisting Chief Hawkins with that information piece, because we're being proactive, sending it out. People think it's a change, but it's actually something that the contract is required for
A
year-
number of years.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we want to give the education piece out there too. So that's something that's on the back burner, but we want to get to it soon, before all the more people come and maybe the change is different for them.
Gotcha. So yeah, it'd be more, it could be just a standard informational handout then as well that, if Plain had, copies of that in the truck or whatever, you simply hand it out to folks. If
Good,
they're, asking or inquiring or anything like that. So, okay, no, that's good. Good information. All right. Thank you, Chief, for your report. All right, we'll move on. Item J3, Harbor Master's Report. And this is a written report only, and this will be found on page 18 of your packet. Looks like a lot of the typical normal stuff, getting ready for summer, while getting water turned on here soon, fixing stuff, broken stuff, looking to update some stuff, auction coming up, some first aid stuff on the kits, replacing outdated items, etc. Yeah, additional signage all over. And then I see mortgage agreements down there for Jackaloff Bay. And then I did notice too that there had been some purchases made on the cemetery equipment as well. So I noticed the balance in that account was down, and then that there was some, looks like a zero clearance riding mower and a couple other things had been purchased. So that's good. That'll be nice to see. Not that we can ever get them here anytime soon, but it's a start.
They're here.
They're actually physically here.
They are.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Layla worked her magic.
Good. All right. Just want to make sure she wasn't relying on the ferry for that.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay. Oop. Yep. Any questions, comments on the harbor?
yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking through the list here and I'm not seeing, are we holding off replacing those rotten, what do you call them? The 8x8s or 6x6 beams that are on top of the floats as you go down the
bull rails.
Bull rails. Are we waiting to get a grant or money to replace those? Unless someone else sees it on here, I'm not seeing replacement of those. Do we have a plan for replacing those or what?
Councilmember Rojas, through the mayor, I can follow up with the harbor master to ask, because I know that she works with Public Works a lot on replacement of float material. So I can ask her if that's been part of the discussion.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't see it on this list, so I didn't know if we were hoping to do it with a grant or something, but yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I saw the pile cap. I saw pile caps, I know, and then there's cleats and a number of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, good catch, Fabian. Anyone else? Questions or comments on the harbor report tonight? Okay, we'll continue the last one here. Item J4, the Maintenance Public Works Report, and that's on page 21 of your packet. And is Jordan gonna give that one? Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have read this beforehand or not, but I'm certainly not going to read the whole thing to you. But it's just more of the spring projects and maintenance and all that stuff that's kind of redundant. There are going to be a few things that, project wise that need to get done. And but anyways, this is kind of reflecting on what we had done, and there's been some kind of projects that have been started that are kind of important, like the guys of maintenance guys have stripped off part of the rusty parts of the office building that were dangling on the awning, and when their time allows, we'll be able to replace the purlings that are missing. And right now this last month we've had a lot of water leaks. We're back down to less than 200,000 gallons a day that we are distributing and leaking, and so that's where we're at right now. That's our primary focus, is fixing water leaks. And where we're at right now is all the easy ones have been taken care of, and now we have to cut pavement and fix 2 water services to residents, and those are small leaks. I figure somewhere around 10,000 a day, maybe a little more, but not much more than that. And then we'll have our locate guy come back after we're done fixing those 2 leaks, and he'll come and try to get another listen on a couple of the other suspected leaks. But at this point, we haven't found the big leak. So somewhere we probably have at least a 70 gallon a minute leak that is not showing itself like we'd like. We're most fortunate when they just come bubbling out of the road and we can go right to them. But right now we have substantial amount of water going somewhere that we can't detect. And multiple times the crew has gone around and listened, and there's not a lot to listen to. There's some smaller leaks that are detected, but nothing that really stands out as being the big leak. So far, the 2 leaks that we've replaced or repaired were either from poor fitment of the pipe or corrosion, and the corrosion is mainly due to groundwater, and the groundwater in some areas is just unbelievable. We had a very difficult time keeping the hole dry so we could work up by the Turner residence on Vista Avenue on Thursday, and that water is very aggressive, and it's really eating the pipe that's in the ground, and it won't be in too far in the future that pipe is going to be another issue, and we'll have to either replace it or we will have to replace it. There's just there'll be no going around it, or put a Band-Aid on it, I suppose, and let it, it only lasts another couple of years. But that's just distribution. Because we're using so much water, we're gobbling through our chlorine, and I had a year's worth of chlorine, and I ordered that before we started our water usage increase, and now our year's worth turned into 4 months worth, and so it would already be, and pretty soon I'm gonna have to plan on ordering some more chlorine, and we won't get a year's worth at the rate we're at, but we'll get another 25 buckets, and then hope that we fix the water leaks and get our consumption down to a more reasonable level in the near future. The plant is more than capable of producing the water it needs for the demand, but it just costs us more in time and consumables. It's on schedule for a few more water services to be installed by new property owners. Those are going to be some challenging installs. I see the latest one is on Airport Avenue, and that one's going to be pretty interesting because we're going to have to choose whether to go down into the slough and connect on the Jack Thomas extension or out into Airport Avenue, depending on the grade. So that's not going to be something that I'm going to look forward to. That's going to end up being a challenge, I suppose. And then the water leak at the slough crossing by the boardwalk is going to be another interesting deal because the leak detector is having a hard time getting a locate, and there's not many water services off of it. There's only one. And so if it's not that service leaking, then we might potentially have to go and dig down in the slough, and that's a worst case scenario. But we'll find out when our detection guy comes back and gets a good listen on it. So those are what's on our mind. You know, there's been some ongoing stuff that are just kind of sitting there marinating. You know, the lift pumps and all that business, and the multi-purpose building boiler and all that is all on hold till we get our water usage under control. Any questions?
Jordan, I have a quick question for you. On the, I know you guys are using the listing devices to try to detect for that big leak. Have you guys tried isolating sections, shutting down and isolating sections of town just to try to get an idea of what section of town that leak may be occurring in?
Yeah, we have. We've isolated the slough crossings, and we've isolated quite a few sections downtown and over on by Vista and that. And we haven't isolated every section because even when we do have a leak, we haven't had a lot of success getting instant gratification from the meter. So
Gotcha.
It's kind of an end. If we can't get a locate, by listening, then that will be our last solution, is just to start turning off parts of town. And the boys have gone around, the maintenance guys have gone around and cleaned out most of the key.
Kind of early.
Well, I heard them fire up the generator. Yeah, they might be switching us over and then gonna really shut us down at 8 or something. You still there, Jordan?
He's not there, but we're still on.
Okay. Oh, he might have lost it at his house. Oh, so looks like we're a little early here this evening. Huh.
Who else do we have online? Still anybody?
Well, it's not gonna show.
Right.
Let's see.
His voice cut off in the middle of work.
Okay.
I know, I'm just wondering.
Vivian and Jennifer and Harmony, are you guys still there? I think we lost. Let's see here. Are they coming back?
I hope so, because otherwise we don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
If we had one more person sitting here, we could still.
1, 2. Oh, yeah, we are short one, aren't we?
Harmony said she was coming over.
Harmony's online.
Oh, Jen.
No Jen.
Jan, are you still there?
Jan?
Yes, I am still here.
Okay.
Oh,
But
You're
I'm
at- are you at-
I'm in
out the
Kenai,
road,
so
Jan?
that's not, I'm in Kenai, so I'm not a fair comparison.
oh,
And
That's
if I were
right.
out the road, I'd still be off grid, so.
okay.
So I guess for the sake of the recording and the YouTube live, if anybody is listening or to go back on the record, we have lost power and we currently lost our quorum. So I don't know if you want to do a short recess, Mr. Mayor, until we
Yep.
can see who can come back.
Yep, let's take 5 here. We'll just stand in recess till we can get a quorum back in order here.
Should get power back when they get on the generator. Take them a minute to pick up the load.
8. We all planned on 8.
I mean,
We're still fine.
they specifically.
What?
Are you guys there?
Hi, Harmony, we're here. Can you hear us?
Very quiet.
Sorry, we are waiting to see if Councilmember Rojas is able to join us. And then we'll resume the meeting when the mayor is ready.
You guys want to go live again? Whatever we got to do.
Yeah, we are still live, Mr. Mayor, so you just have to call the meeting back to order when you're
Okay.
ready.
Okay, we are going to call the meeting back to order. Our unplanned recess is over. Vivian, you can hear us just fine.
Yep, I'm back.
Harmony and Jennifer, you two as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure we got our quorum, we got everybody back here. So full council back. All right, Jordan's not going to join us. He had to run up to the water treatment plant. Obviously, as soon as the power starts going down, bells and whistles start going off. So he's dealing with that. He gave basically all of his report. Obviously, the big thing is all the water leaks right now. So they're making an effort. And then as a last ditch effort, yeah, if they got to start shutting down sections of town to find that leak, then that's what they're going to have to do here at some point in the near future. So more to follow when they get to that. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yep, go ahead.
did he say that it was groundwater that was eroding the pipe in that one location?
Yes.
Is there any way to divert that flow of water?
I think it comes up. I think it's water table is the issue. The way to combat that is get rid of all the copper. Is get rid of the copper and get away from metallic pipe and go to HDPE that's not susceptible to corrosion. So I think when we do all of this, if there's any kind of forced sewer main and or water lines, that's the way to go. And then you don't have to fight all that stuff. So, yep. All right, we will go ahead and move on here. We got just over an hour before our outage. That includes all of the administrative reports, except for the city manager's report to come later. Move on to item K, public hearings, item K1, ordinance 22-12, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Soldovia, Alaska, amending Soldovia Municipal Code Title 11 by adopting section 11.11.005 definitions and amending sections 11.11.010 permit applications, 11.11.020 violations, and 11.11.030 rules and regulations - special conditions. That was introduced on April 11th, and this will be found on page 23 of your packet. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, page 23 of your packet, as the mayor said. Just a brief overview. This came about because we've had quite a few calls over the past year. We've actually had quite a few permits over the last year for people looking to harvest dead or standing dead or dead and downed timber from the outside beach and RV park area. And our chief Hawkins has had a lot of enforcement calls, just trying to verify that people have permits and that people are cutting what they should be cutting. And part of that discussion was that we don't have any definitions of what is dead and downed, what constitutes firewood, what's a living tree and what's a standing dead. So this amendment to this ordinance allows for those definitions and also provides that the fee schedule, or that the permit fee will be in the fee schedule instead of in the code where it is right now. And that under violations, that cutting any firewood any timber that is not already dead and down is now a violation. The cutting of standing dead trees without permission of the city manager or their designee has been included. So really just saying that if you want to cut a standing dead tree, it is only permitted, and you'll see that in the next section, by special approval of the city manager or their designee. The cutting of living trees is never permitted without special circumstances that clearly show risk of public health and safety. This was discussed internally, and language brought before council for approval, because there has been a few questions over, well, they're cutting something, so is it live or is it dead? And how do you tell the difference? And so those differences are kind of included in the definition, but also to hopefully prevent some of that management and back and forth. Is you should be cutting trees that are already down on the ground. If it's a standing dead, then you need to speak with the city manager and get special approval to cut the standing dead, so that we can verify that it's standing dead. And then also it just includes a section that speaks to the city reserving the right to suspend all firewood harvesting permits from an area or areas of public land indefinitely or for extended periods of time. Considerations for the suspension of firewood harvest permits include, but are not limited to, availability of resources in the area, aesthetic, health, and safety, or the need for excessive management or enforcement in the area. So that allows the city to say, nope, we're not giving any more permits out at this time if it becomes unmanageable or too much activity is happening in an area.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Heidi.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yep.
may include one more thing, there is an application just for your guys's review. You don't necessarily have to approve it, but if the ordinance is approved, there is an application on page 26 that's what it would look like. Those changes would be made so that people would be aware when filling out the application of those changes.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and roll it over to council for council discussion. See if anyone has any questions or comments on ordinance 22-12. Go ahead, John.
Mayor Campbell, the actual fee is currently $35, correct?
Correct. And that is
Okay.
in the fee schedule already.
Okay.
This just, if we need to change it in the future,
Right.
would allow for that to happen without
And
the
then
code change.
one other thing, as far as comments for the suspension of permits, I know it's not likely event, but maybe in dry conditions, if we were to be having a drought, you might want to have some kind of comment in there that alludes to the fact that we can suspend them in case of severe fire conditions.
Yeah, and I think the way the language is, you guys can suspend them for whatever you need to, right? Yeah.
Your mic is off, John.
Sorry. I just was talking about possible fire suspension to permits in the event of a dry season. For example, the first year I was here, the fires on the peninsula.
Okay, sounds good. Any other additional questions or comments on this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Oh,
Yep, go ahead, Vivian, and then I'll get to you, Bobby.
okay, yeah, I'm great. We're putting this together and refining what we had put on the books earlier. I'm also glad to see that it's that it's in the ordinance about that it's only for personal use and not for people to sell. I'm totally in favor of this ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Bobby?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that what John is saying too, I think it goes along with when the fire department in the state issues no burn permits. Obviously, if there's no burning, there's no permits to
Yep.
cut down firewood. So I think that kind of covers it too.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to the public. Anyone from the public wish to comment on ordinance 22-12?
I'm not seeing any comments at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 22-12.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 22-12 by Rojas. We have a second by Nathan. Any further discussion before we vote on ordinance 22-12? Okay, all those in favor, Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, item L, unfinished business, none. Item M, new business. Item M1, resolution 22-44. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Soldovia amending the memorandum of agreement between the city and the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities regarding the Alaska Marine Highway System's use of the municipal dock and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. This will be found on page 27 of your packet. And I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So in your packet, council, is the original memorandum of agreement that the city signed back in 2018 for the ferry's use of the municipal dock. It also includes the fact that they'll cover staff expenses, specifically just the wages of the line handlers and the ticketing agent. It'll provide for a small stipend to cover phone use. There's other conditions that are in the original memorandum of agreement. And so the MOA that was signed in 2018 has 4 extensions. We're in the 4th extension, and these extensions automatically renew for the original MOA as is, but the state has proposed an additional amendment or a couple amendments to the original MOA, as you'll see colored in red. The first one is they want to eliminate the ticketing person effective May 1st, 2022. So that means we would lose a staff position here at the city. And as a result of eliminating the ticketing person, we would no longer be selling tickets locally here in Soldovia. So these were amendments that were proposed by AMHS, and they wanted the city to review this by April 30th, because I guess that's when the MOA, the new MOA extension comes into effect. And so I just drafted this resolution, which council does not have to pass today if you aren't in agreement with the amended terms. And I additionally left line 34, whereas Soldovia City Council finds the proposed amendments to the MOA blank in case the council wanted to make a statement or amend this resolution so that we could submit it to the state. But the state's reasoning for making this change, there's a few emails that are provided in your packet. So starting on page 34, when I asked Josiah, who is the representative for the city regarding this MOA, the reasoning for the change, why that had happened, he said that AMHS will be changing Soldovia's port status from manned to an unmanned port. Therefore, they will no longer be requiring the ticketing agent, as all reservations will either be booked online by the customer or through reservations in other terminals. And you are correct that by eliminating the ticketing agent, the city will no longer need a phone line for AMHS. And so the passengers and any materials that need to go onto the vessel will be handled by staff on the vessel. So then I asked a few further questions. They're provided in your laydown packet. So starting on page 3 of your laydown packet, I asked Josiah, can you provide me with an explanation why AMHS has changed Soldovia's port status from manned to unmanned, and has AMHS done this for other communities or just Soldovia? And so the response I got from Josiah was, the city was requesting AMHS to pay for additional items for the ticketing agents above the wages, including Medicare, workman's comp, unemployment, and Social Security. AMHS was not willing to cover these added costs, as it was more cost effective to handle the ticketing for Soldovia either on the vessel or through the Homer terminal. They also said that when there are schedule changes, the Soldovia agents do not help with rebooking passengers, and communications between the agent and AMHS has not happened when issues arise. And they stated that there has been several instances when the agent in Soldovia has not been available, which has led to vessel crews needing to ticket passengers on board anyway. So following this email, there are other emails below that starting on page 4, in which I emailed with Simon, who oversees the ferry operations and initially had approached the ferry AMHS with covering other payroll liabilities, because it came to my attention that we were just getting compensated for wages, and these are positions created to support the ferry. But then I later on said, please disregard that email, because there was a miscommunication that I had with staff. What do we pay? What do they pay? And ultimately it was like, let's just disregard that conversation. So that's one email exchange. So the city never formally pursued going forward with payroll liabilities. And then I received a follow-up email with Tom Mayer with AMHS, because he wanted to follow up on the city's request for payroll liabilities. But I told him, it already said we're not going to pursue that, so please disregard that. But I did share with him some of the feedback I received from staff regarding the ferry service. So staff that are line handlers and ticketing agents, I heard from at least 2 of them that there was frustration that they had to be ready for the ferry, but the ferry could cancel last minute. And so while they've reserved their whole day to handle the ferry situation, they don't get compensated for that time, despite making themselves available. So that was the other item that I had brought forward to AMHS is, is there a way that you can handle the situation, compensate staff? Because that is, it can lead to the dissatisfaction or hardship on staff. And so the ferry staff had said, no, this is not something that we could honor. And I asked, can I follow up with you later on amendments to the contract, and didn't hear back. So I just wanted to give that background, because at least the first reasoning that was provided for switching from manned to unmanned was regarding the payroll liabilities, which is something that the city did not ultimately pursue with them. And then the other items, in talking with the city clerk from more of a historical perspective, we could see if our ticketing agent could help with rebooking passengers and having better communications between AMHS and the city. This hasn't been something that we've been asked to do in the past, as what I understand. It's just something that they've taken over when there's changes on their end. So that is something that we could say to them, hey, we would be willing to do that for you if that's helpful. And then their third point, there was, I believe, at least 3 times when our ticketing agent last year had to cancel last minute and was unavailable. And we did contact AMHS to say our ticketing agent can no longer, provide the service. So can you please provide it on the boat? Which is why we changed the personnel structure of the ferry by having 2 ticketing agents instead. So now the city and one position is solely ticketing agent, rather than having a ticketing agent be both a ticketing agent and a line handler. So we wanted to build redundancy in how we were operating the ferry service. So that was a change that we made as a result, because the current ticketing agent had been absent. So that was a way of trying to prevent that from happening, because I did have a worry that this could be something that would be cause for eliminating that service to Soldovia. So in short, so there's some background information. The state is looking to execute the MOA with the amendments. Council can say that they don't agree to the amendments, not pass the resolution or amend the resolution to state something to that effect, and just request that the original MOA be the one that the city renews with the state for the 4th and final time. And I'm happy to consider any other options or recommendations with the council, but this is something that has been very recent. I want to say that the state contacted me with the amendment back in last week.
Okay, thank you. Rachel, any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
If I could get some clarification, so it sounds like Alaska Marine Highway made a decision to unman Seldovia based on perhaps reacting to our concern about the liability of an employee and what the city is putting out to cover this person's salary. That seemed to be what the deal is. But do we have, I guess going back, do we have an employee who is willing and able to cover the agent position in Seldovia?
Through the mayor, council member Rojas, yes, we have one person who's designated just to be the ticketing agent. And then one of our line handlers who was the hybrid line handler ticketing agent last year is just a line handler. That way, if the ticketing agent position that's solely dedicated to that service, that person can't make it, then the backup ticketing agent can be both line handler and ticketing agent. So that was new. We didn't have that in the past. This was something that we put into effect to avoid the possibility of something like this happening. And you're correct. That's the first of 3 reasons that AMHS gave for why they went from manned to unmanned was the payroll liabilities aspect, even though we told them to disregard that.
Okay. And is Seldovia the only port that has the unmanned status? Do we know?
Through the mayor, I don't know that I asked that question about, have you made this change? Is this change only impacting Seldovia or is it other communities? And they didn't answer that question in their email.
Yeah, I think that there's room that we need to negotiate with the Alaska Marine Highway. I think they're possibly their reason and the rationale of making an unmanned service in Seldovia are perhaps they're not thoroughly informed, and not giving Seldovia the chance, as you said, about the agent being able to rebook. So I think there's a little bit of information that they're lacking, and perhaps they're reacting in a situation that wasn't clear to them or something of the such. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. So just a quick follow-up to that. So then on the payroll liabilities, I mean, we obviously the amount we bill is not covering payroll liabilities.
Right.
So there is a negative impact to the budget on that.
Right.
Okay, so there's a cost to that. I mean, if we were to lose our manned status, I mean, other than showing up and wanting to get a ticket, right then and there's definitely an inconvenience to people at last minute. Is there any other negative impact that we could see from the Alaska Marine Highway, I mean, to the city as a result of this? Or, I mean, is nothing else is being implied or anything like that? I mean, it's a convenience thing.
Right. I think it's more for, from the state's perspective, from what I'm hearing, is they feel like they're already doing the job. And, Seldovia, they feel has not been fulfilling the contract. If I were to interpret what those 3 conditions were, not the first one, but the second one, that when there's cancellations or rescheduling, we don't help with that. But our response would be, we're willing to help with that if you would let us.
If asked,
if
right.
asked, we'd be willing. And then the third one being that, yes, the ticketing agent, the system that we had last year wasn't a good one. So we put a new one into effect. And so I don't think that we would encounter the same issues this year that we did last year with scheduling. So that's
right.
Also,
and they didn't indicate this is a new kind of model or something like that, it was specific to Seldovia.
that's my impression, because they didn't say, looking at other communities, they just called out Seldovia. And I would say the impact for Seldovia is, you are losing staff position. So that's an employment opportunity. And then it could symbolically be seen as, lesser service that Seldovia can offer to visitors and citizens who may want to buy their ticket and use agents here, but it wouldn't actually prevent them from getting a ticket because they could just go on the boat.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else? George?
Yeah. What's the difference between the ticket agent and the line handlers? Is the ferry system paying for the line handlers?
Through the mayor, yes. So
then we're really not an unmanned port. And the, this sounds like a kind of a back end thing.
If I can interpret what they're saying, I think they went from manned to unmanned because they're saying that they don't need us to be selling the tickets anymore. So in essence, they don't really have an office here anymore.
Well, that's probably true. Truth be told, but it seems like they're taking away the position from us and leaving their position intact as far as the line handlers go. I don't know where it goes. Probably nothing we can do about any of this, so.
Well, the line handler positions are very important. If we didn't have local line handlers, you couldn't have a ferry come
Yeah.
to Soldovia.
Exactly.
So yeah, just so we're clear though, we're leaving the line handlers.
Right.
Yeah, the line handlers stay. It's just the ticketing agent.
Correct.
Okay. John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, where's the draft located tonight? The draft that you proposed to respond to them?
So that's
It's in the
resolution.
way down.
It's the resolutions in the regular packet. It's on page 27. And it just goes over the history of the MOA. It also states that the fourth and final amendment to the original agreement is before the council and what that amendment does, how it eliminates the ticketing agent position and the phone line at the city office. And then states that the reasons why it occurred. So there's an opportunity if council wanted to amend this, because I kind of assumed there could be some
Right.
input for council, or if council didn't want to pass this resolution and instead wanted to
I'm-
tell the state that we would like to just continue with the original agreement and not make an amendment. That option is also available to the council.
I'm just wondering if we aren't just kind of got caught up in their budget cuts with everything with the ferry here. And just for example, I had stuff scheduled to come on the boat on the 30th. I've received 2 phone calls in the last 2 days. And I wonder if you know, our ticketing agent even had an opportunity or knew that was part of their job function, you know, kind of like some of the confusion we've had with the chief working in town or out of town, you know, it's just part of the contract. And I think the state's looking for any way they can to reduce the service. And I think the writing's on the wall, you know, when it comes to the ferry.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
maybe this was already asked by Vivian. I had a hard time here and there for a minute, but I was just wondering, that's a local job position that somebody fills, and that, you know, it's a job position that if it goes away now won't be available again. Do we want to just cut that tie clean out just because of its an inconvenience? When was the last time we were actually had somebody in that office on a more consistent schedule? I think it was like when Jen worked there, correct? So when the ferry would be canceled, our local representative would call people. If that's an opportunity to add more hours to somebody who's already working the position, I don't see why we would just opt to cut that out of our operations. I don't know.
Through the mayor, council member Peyton, just so I'm clear, the amendments that are before the council, those were proposed by the state. And so the state is saying that they want to change Soldovia's status from manned to unmanned, which would mean that they no longer want the Soldovia ticketing office to have, or a ferry
I did
office.
read all of everything you put in the but I heard you state just there when you were replying to George that we could go back to the original.
Right.
Or
Councilmember
say
Peyton.
That's the original with those amendments, though.
No, so council could direct the city manager to work with the state to say that, you know, the council isn't interested, or not interested. What's the terminology? The council would like to negotiate and discuss the proposed amendments from the state regarding the MOA because there's concerns regarding the loss of a local job, how that position actually helps the city. So I was speaking to the city clerk about this issue, and the city actually already fields, outside of the ticketing agent position, a lot of questions, people calling about the ferry, asking for more information regarding the ferry. So it's something that the city's already doing. Anyways, I'm helping AMHS. So, council can list various reasons why the council would like to go back to the drawing board with AMHS and discuss those amendments, because they submitted them to me last week. They asked that this be signed, I believe, by April 30th, so that it's in effect by May 1st. And we already have, as according to the original MOA, an agreement that states that it will automatically renew as is. So that's why I'm thinking that that's a possible option.
So we don't, I mean, according to the original contract, then if we don't agree to the amendment, then according to the original contract, it would just have to renew.
Correct.
I mean, even if the state disagreed with it, we have to both agree on amendment. Otherwise, it rolls back to the language in the original contract. And so I guess, Jennifer, I'll get to you in just a second, but I just wanted, while it's fresh in my mind here too. So as a point of strategy here then too, we want to make sure that this is not another, and I'm not implying that it is, but it's not a calculated decision to slowly get us off of the scheduled ferry stop here. We go from manned to unmanned, and pretty soon the city has no interest or has lack of participation, in the ferry system, which is absolutely, I'm dying right now because of what they just happened here, as is multiple people that I've talked to today, quite frankly, pissed that they waited this long because I wouldn't have had my stuff picked up, and you can't tell me it's hour by hour baloney. I'm just going to go on a tirade here, but baloney that it's hour by hour, that 1 hour it's here on Saturday and then an hour later, now it's a 2-week delay. That is inexcusable. Unless someone comes from the state and tells me, well, here's what happened. Well, I want an answer. I want to know, because now we're into our season here. People have commerce, they have merchandise, and not just moving people, but there are goods and services that we absolutely need that are now stuck in Homer, and we have no way to get them. So quite frankly, I'm pissed off. Okay, now that's all I'm going to say. Jennifer, your turn.
Oh, and Mayor, I just wanted to add, yes, it says in the original agreement, the parties may not amend or modify this agreement unless they do so in writing and execute the document through their duly authorized representatives. And then there's another part of the agreement that just states that it will renew. Under term, it says each option will automatically self-execute unless written notice of termination is sent in accordance with Section 13 of this agreement. So possibly the state could say that they're going to terminate the agreement if the city doesn't agree to the amendments. That seems like it could be a possibility, but as far as I'm reading this, both parties have to agree to the amendment, and it automatically self-executes.
Well, if they're going to be the ones to terminate it, then let them be the ones to terminate it, as far as I'm concerned, and that'll just open a broader discussion. Then we'll go back to our legislative delegation in Juneau and we'll pitch a fit. So, yeah, I know I'm sounding a little childish, but
Mayor Campbell,
this thing has consequences.
that's exactly what I was getting at with the writing on the walls. I've got product that's going to be sitting on the other side in a van in heat for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is problematic. It's problematic. Jennifer, you had your hand up. I see it's down now.
Debating whether I want to speak. I don't know. As far as what they're proposing, unfortunately, I 100% agree. They're right. That job is hard to fill. Hold on. I try to avoid making ferry tickets here as much as possible, but having that local person is very helpful. Not to say that we wouldn't have that local contact, because I know that I've had people texting me saying, hey, are you coming? Well, yeah, you gave me 20 minutes to unload my truck. So we won't lose that altogether, but if it's this or they terminate our contract, what are we? I see where it could be seen as this is a hop and a skip to eliminating us altogether. I'd like to think that's not going to happen. Maybe I'm being naive. I doubt we're the only unmanned port. I'm assuming there's some out the chain already that are. I wish they would have answered that question. I don't know why they didn't. Yeah, even when I worked there, I hardly made those calls to change people's tickets. Was always a Homer thing. It makes sense to be a Homer thing. I get where the state's coming from. I do. I hate to say that, but I know where you guys are all coming from too, to want to try and fight for that position. So, I mean, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But it's going to be a tough thing to fight them with, I feel like. And I don't know what the right decision would be as far as us sounding like we're giving up on it and letting them take it away from us. I don't know, but I see where they're coming from and where they're going to fight their side from. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Jennifer. Vivian, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just one last comment. I think the points that I've heard tonight, I am in agreement that we need to hold the position and hold for the MOA that we have. And if they're going to drop it, then let them drop it. But I think as a community, we need to support ourselves and make sure that they know that we are very much vested in our marine highway system in whatever way we can be. So I'm in agreement that we need to not accept their amendments to the MOA and that we send that word back, that we address our city manager to negotiate with them for what we have right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Vivian.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, George, and I'll come back to you, Bobby.
I don't know. I think we need to proceed carefully. We're all upset about this. No two ways about it, but let's don't go off half-cocked. As far as losing the position, we don't want that to happen, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it. Maybe we ought to just let that go by and start organizing another campaign to ensure that we're going to have ferry service here. I agree with the mayor that this seems to be step one in getting rid of Seldovia. Let's just don't walk into their trap. Is all I'm saying. I think we need to be very careful how we proceed. The other thing, how about let's get our representative Stutes on the phone right now. Let's we're talking about this. Let's get her in on it.
Yep. Okay, thank you, George. Bobby, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just want to make a statement. If anybody thought that this was going to be an easy task and with this current administration, then you're crazy, because I think everybody knew that this was going to start happening. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And I would like to see that you just kind of see if you can talk to them about keeping everything status quo. God forbid we make ask for a little bit more of this and that. Obviously, we're not going to get that. But I'd like to see us keep what we've got at least. And I agree, if they're going to cancel it, then let them be the ones to do it. And I think what George said, I think we need to then for another day get with our legislators again and see what exactly, the scoop is, or what we can do as far as that goes. I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough one.
So basically,
Thanks.
we have 1 year left on this agreement, right? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, we have 1 year left on the original agreement. So I think honestly, I think from my opinion, the smart play here is would be for the council to reject the amendment, authorize the city manager to enter into a negotiation, to at least get a better understanding of where they're coming from, where we're coming from. If they're gonna terminate, they're gonna terminate. You know, like George said, there's nothing we can do about it if they go that route, but at least they know it's not coming from our side. And while you have that conversation, you can let them know that I'm pretty pissed about what just happened. And then, not that matters at all, but yeah, I think that would be the smart play, the sensible, and the rational play here. Hear them out, see what they have to say, and then we go from there. Maybe we'll get a few more answers in terms of manned or unmanned. So in the interest, go ahead.
One
John.
quick question.
Yep.
I'd like to see the question answered as to whether there's any other ports that are unmanned.
Yep.
That, and then everything else has been pretty much covered.
Okay. In the interest of time here, do we have anyone from the public that wishes to weigh in on resolution 22-44?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council. We can either have any final questions, comments, or look for a motion to approve resolution 22-44. Yep.
I have another question.
Yep. Go ahead,
Can-
Jennifer.
So the original, what's it say, MOA has 4 individuals. Are they all getting billed out at the same rate?
Through the mayor, council member Swick, can you explain a little bit more?
The line handlers versus
Oh,
the
Yes, they're all, that was another change that we made. All staff for the ferry receive the $17 wage that they're provided by the state for their positions.
Okay, so if I understand that we kind of changed to an agent, just solely an agent, and I see the benefits, but I mean, I guess if we could compromise and train more of our line handlers, so they're still paying the same number of positions, and we can still have that piece to their, I mean, it's not changing their side of it. And then, I don't know, compromise and get rid of the phone line. We can pick up a phone call or two. Maybe.
Duly noted, Councilmember Swick. I was going to ask the city clerk, mayor, like, what's the best approach for the resolution? So if council doesn't want to go with the resolution, would it be best to just let it die on the table?
Yes, I believe that if you guys just didn't even make the motion, it would die.
Mhm.
And then you could make a motion for what action you do want to take. So if it is to direct the city manager to negotiate, whatever it is that you want to put in that language, then the resolution itself will have just died. You could
Okay.
call for a motion. Nobody makes it, it's dead.
Okay.
Thank you, Heidi.
Okay, we will bring it back to council then for any further discussion, or if anyone cares to make a motion in support of resolution 22-44, which is the amendment to the original MOA between the city and the state of Alaska DOT. Anyone care to offer a motion of support for resolution 22-44? Okay, hearing none, resolution 22-44 dies. Any additional motions to be made since that was is not going to be brought forward?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, George.
I move the council instruct the city manager to enter into negotiations with the state, reference the situation with the ferry and service to Soldovia and the position that's in abeyance here.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Nathan to authorize the city manager or direct the city manager to enter into negotiations with the state in regards to the elements of the amendment to the MOA between the state and the city. We have a second by Rojas. Any further discussion before we vote?
Mayor, for clarification, Is council rejecting the amendments that have been proposed?
Yes, we have, it died. There was no motion brought forth to approve resolution 22-44.
Okay.
So that died.
Okay.
Yep. So, okay, any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor, Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Swick.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 6-0. Radzi, do you have a question, comment? You're good? Oh,
So on the MHS website, I see that there are 16 terminal contact phone numbers. So presumably 16 manned offices, but there are 35 ports of call. So we can assume that there are 19 unmanned ports of call at the current time.
gotcha. Thank you for that point of clarification. Okay. Okay, so Rachel, you've got direction then to follow up on this and
Yeah.
get with the folks and just see what we can do.
You bet.
Okay, and then we'll let the chips fall how they fall. All right, we're gonna move on here. We're down to 25 minutes here, and we still have a few items to handle here. And the next one is gonna be item M2. And even though I am not a voting member, I have a conflict on this one. So what I'll do is go ahead and turn the Vivian over to the gavel over to Vivian for action memorandum 22-08.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, item number M2, that's action memorandum 22-08, City Council Statement of Non-Objection for the renewal of the Herring Bay LLC Beverage Dispensary Tourism License number 5289 DBA Seldovia Boardwalk Hotel. And if the city clerk, could you bring it to us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So just as the title says, this is a city council statement of non-objection for the renewal of the Herring Bay LLC Beverage Dispensary Tourism License doing business as Seldovia Boardwalk Hotel. The application, the renewal notice, the application, and a letter of non-objection of the application has been provided in the packet. And that action memorandum recommendation is consider approval of action memorandum 2208, and that starts on page 36 of your packet.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, council, if we have a discussion on this, the packet is very thorough. I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at it. If there's anyone who would like to speak to this,
Vivian Rojas.
yes, go ahead, sir.
I've read it and I have no objections.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Favor.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Vivian, this is Harmony. I'm just speaking in favor of the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd certainly support this wholeheartedly. It's been in place for years and I'm sure it's going to be the shining thing that it's been all along.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on council before we go to the public? Okay, we'll go, is there, Madam Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, is there anyone in the public?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time from the public, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll bring it back to council for action. That'd be a motion.
I make a motion to accept action memorandum 22-08.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. And that was Bobby Sweat, and I didn't hear who seconded that. Was that John Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. And now we'll vote. Madam Clerk, if you could call the names, please.
Councilmember Peyton.
Aye.
Councilmember Nathan.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweat.
Aye.
Councilmember Rojas.
Aye.
Councilmember Kennedy
Aye.
and Councilmember Swick.
Aye.
Your
All right, the
motion
motion-
passes.
Thank you, ma'am. The motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, I'll return the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Vivian. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Item N, city manager's report. Let the city manager take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go through this as quickly as I can. The ferry noticed the city that the April 30th sailing has been canceled.
Let's see, what page are we on real quick here? Just
Oh,
so we're all.
you bet.
Let's lay down, correct?
Page 8 of the laydown.
8 of the lay down.
And the reason for the cancellation is continued delay in the yard. The April 19th notice that the state issued regarding the delay and the storage yard is included in the manager's report. And we heard back from the state that there is no alternative date that they can provide at this time to give Soldovia to make up for that service. So they want to maintain the May schedule as much as possible. So that means that the first ferry as of now that Soldovia could receive according to their schedule is May 14th. So there'll be 2 trips in May, 2 trips in June, and 7 trips in July scheduled so far, with more coming in August and September. Council received an email last week or the week before letting you know that we have successfully submitted the RAISE grant application. There was a lot of staff time that went into that report application, as well as support from outside agencies, including the Alaska Municipal League, Senator Murkowski's office, and the Alaska Department of Public Transportation. I also wanted to give a shout out to local Soldovians, Brentwood Higman and Aaron McKittrick, because the RAISE grant asks for information concerning how the project will address climate change or environmental sustainability. So I reached out to them for support. So again, the city of Cordova tried 3 times before they got the RAISE grant. It's very competitive, but we're trying to get it. And if it's not received this year, perhaps the council could look at using some of those deferred revenue funds from Jackaloff to hire a grant writer for that. And there'll be a website coming up soon that has all of the information, so you can see the full package that was submitted to USDOT. The symposium that the finance officer and I attended a couple weeks ago was very fruitful. I have great news hopefully coming soon regarding wastewater improvements in Soldovia. And if you want to look at any of the slides or presentations, they're posted on Murkowski's website. The city clerk was also the acting city manager for the past couple of weeks and provided some updates regarding progress that's occurred under her leadership. Launch ramp signs were installed to help the city capture lost revenue. Public Works has been working on those extensive water leaks. Staff wants to work on signage regarding harbor parking and are awaiting a future discussion with council regarding charging fees for the harbor parking on that, as well as the outages with HEA. And she's also been updating our administrative forms when it comes to planning and facility use rentals. CAPED's Executive Director, Tim Dillon, provided an update regarding the ARPA Business Relief Grant. There's more information there. So if there's businesses in Soldovia that you think would benefit from this program, please let them know. FY23 budget, next steps. So Finance Officer Yeager has been taking a big lead in preparing the budget. We've also met with staff to get their input on upcoming expenses, and she's also been helping with a big task of data entry. So please thank her next time you see her. I'm hoping that council will have a draft FY23 budget document as well as the fee schedule the beginning of next week. And I don't think we're going to be able to meet the deadline of May 9th budget introduction passage May 23rd. So I'll have Diane reach out to you guys to see if you're available May 16th for a special meeting with the budget passing on May 23rd. So that's something coming up. Thanks to the city custodian, Alicia Kennedy. She's been going above and beyond in her position, so please give her a thank you. Refuse service, please welcome Melody Hall to the team. She accepted the position and we're still looking for a permanent second person to help the city. John Kuhn has been filling in on a temporary basis and going above and beyond, also helping by himself on Saturdays do that, but he is only temporary in that position, so we still need a second person. And then Senior Meals is leaning towards reopening for in-person dining beginning May 4th. There's the notice from the Kennecott saying why it's delayed, as well as an additional letter of support from Senator Stevens for the city's pursuit of the RAISE grant. And so that complements letters of support from Senator Murkowski, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, the City of Homer Harbor Master, CAPED, Alaska DOT, Public Facilities. We've had a lot of agencies show support for RAISE. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right, you're off the hook then. Thank you. Yeah, no, I just short and sweet here tonight. A lot of information. And I know there's a little bit more to it on the grant symposium there. That was myself and Rachel talked when she was in Anchorage, and that was a very fruitful couple days up there for the city. So, and there will be more to come on that. I think that was money well spent. Got to know a lot of the players out there, agencies that have money. So yeah, no, look forward to some future updates on that. All right, informational items not requiring action, none. Executive session, none. Item Q, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. And we'll start with Peyton.
Thanks for the good meeting, you guys. Glad we could keep it so short.
Thank you, Nathan.
I thank the staff for getting this together and putting it in a form we could deal with in limited time. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Sweat.
Yeah, thank you, staff, for all your hard work on this, on everything that we talked about tonight, and especially to Heidi and Rachel for the work you're doing. I think you're doing a tremendous job. Also, I think it's very important. I think we need to take a really, really, really proactive part these days in trying to attend as many things as we can when there are, grants to consider, any information at all that we can get, and people that we can meet to let them know about us. And I think it's really important these days. So thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Rojas.
Yeah, congratulations to the staff. Excellent job. Heidi filling in for city manager. Excellent job. And I agree with just Bobby said, the more that we can communicate and facilitate with other people and organizations, the better Seldovia will be. Can anybody answer the cell tower situation? People ask me and I have no idea.
Yeah, do you guys have an update on that yet? Where we're at or where we're headed on that?
City Clerk Gagel?
Nothing official, probably just what you guys have heard, that now they're just, word on the street is possibly September. So I will look into that further and see what I can find out.
Okay, so it's slipped then. We're not going to have it up and running for the summer then.
That's what it sounds like, but I haven't heard anything official. I will see what I can find out.
Okay, that would be good. I'm sure the entire, would be nice to have a little bit of a press release on that, just so
Yeah.
everyone in town knows the full skinny on that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Vivian?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Kennedy.
Don't have anything?
Okay, Swick.
No comment.
Okay, all right, and I'll just finish up here. Yeah, thank you to staff and everyone that had something to contribute here, obviously. And one thing I wanted to know is in the future here, when we had our meeting about the budget and the permanent fund being separated out into its own special revenue fund now, then we have to, just something for people to chew on here. We will in the future have to come up with a dedicated revenue source to keep that in compliance with the accounting standards. So we'll need to have, obviously, the staff bring up a few proposals, and then we can get that as an agenda item. Probably wait till after the budget's over here, obviously, get through that, but then we'll have to tackle that one as well. And from my understanding, it doesn't have to be a large number. It just has to be something that's dedicated, that puts that fund in compliance as a special revenue fund. So look forward to having that on the discussion. And then next regular meeting will be held on May 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And it sounds like we'll obviously have some dates here to get back on track with our budget and getting that passed here over the next month. So unless there's anything else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Any objection? All right, we have a motion to adjourn, no objections, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.